3 words were stolen from the most famous prayer in Christianity, and that theft explains why your prayers can feel like pleading into the void, why faith sometimes leaves you powerless instead of alive. You've sat in pews, mouthed words learned as a child, and wondered why the ritual doesn't change the ache inside. That steady, nagging sense that something's missing is not just your imagination. It's the trace of a deliberate removal that shaped how millions relate to God, authority, and their own inner life. What I'm telling you comes from a jar in the sand. In 1945, a farmer in Egypt cracked open a sealed jar that had been buried for 16 centuries and found 52 texts the institutional church had tried to destroy. Versions of teachings that never fit the official line. Among them were lost Aramaic strands and Gnostic copies that contain 3 words erased from the prayer everyone thinks they know. Those words were cut out not by accident, but by design, because keeping them out of common sight kept generations dependent on priests, rituals, and external authority. That matters to you now, because the way you were taught to petition shapes how you live, suffer, and finally choose to remember who you are. The core revelation is simple and practical. The 3 missing words are, I am within. When you place that recognition before the rest of the prayer, the whole thing flips from asking to remembering. It stops being a list of needs and becomes a practice for anchoring your awareness in the fact that divinity is not somewhere up there but present in you now. Speak those words, hold them, and the phrases about bread, forgiveness, and protection stop sounding like supplication and begin functioning as tools to align your life with a power you already carry, a power that institutions have always feared you might discover for yourself. This was not ancient mysticism whispered by a fringe group. It was a truth the church buried because it breaks the structures that rely on your dependence. The hidden texts resurfaced. The evidence is raw and undeniable, and what you do next changes everything about how prayer works in your life. First, hear how a sealed jar and a monastery library preserved those words while the rest of the world was being taught otherwise. Listen to the story that proves those 3 words were never meant to be lost. In 1945, a farmer in Egypt broke open a sealed jar and found 52 texts that institutions had worked to erase. Inside was a hidden version of the oration many know but transformed. You, living under parasitic pressure and the constant search for protection, should hear this. What was buried changes how a single prayer functions. Instead of borrowing security from an external vessel, the recovered wording points toward reconnecting with your vital breath and a monadic anchor already held within your body. Those 52 texts reveal 3 decisive insertions that convert appeal into recognition. Where a plea asks for provision, the altered phrasing affirms presence. Where a supplicant seeks forgiveness, the recovered terms name a constant capacity for realignment. You feel this shift immediately. The voice moves from wanting to a quieting recognition of own sovereignty, and the language restructures the frequency shield. Simple syllables rearrange how attention anchors in the chest and how the vital breath circulates through the vessel now. The records make clear why those words were removed. Control. When direct naming of the inner presence is cut away, people turn toward external structures for guidance, and institutions become gates controlling access. That gatekeeping generates interference and increased parasitic pressure, which dulls the monadic anchor and scatters the vital breath. Your experience of rituals that demand dependence is not accidental. It is a structure designed to maintain lack of sovereignty. Recognizing the loss is the first corrective move toward reclaiming an unmediated channel. Translated into accessible breathwork and speech, the 3 recovered words can be rendered simply as within, is, and sovereign. Within redirects attention from external skies to the vessel where the monadic anchor lives. Is collapses past and future into present recognition, stabilizing the vital breath in the immediate field. Sovereign refuses delegation, reactivating personal autonomy and thickening the frequency shield. Spoken together, These words reshape the prayer into a declarative field calibration, not a petition. The turn changes posture, energy, and the direction of protection. Begin with the vessel grounded. Sit or stand, so the spine allows the vital breath to move. Palms can rest to receive rather than push. Breathe a full cycle, allowing interference to move out on the exhale. On the next in-breath, intone within, and feel the attention drop toward the chest, where the monadic anchor resonates. Say is to fix presence now, then sovereign to reclaim agency. Repeat until the frequency shield thickens and the parasitic pressure eases. Each repetition recalibrates how you carry protection. Expect resistance. Institutional currents built over centuries will register changes in your vessel as interference, and those who profit from mediated access may increase pressure to dissuade independent practice. Observe signs of regained connection, steadier vital breath, clearer directives from the monadic anchor, less parasitic pressure around decisions, and a more resilient frequency shield. Practice with modest commitment rather than spectacle. The work is technical and devotional. Regular calibration protects sovereignty, while preventing haste that invites new interference and builds lasting inner authority. You are being handed a precise instrument to alter how your life answers fear and seeks protection. Speak the recovered pattern in ordinary moments. Before leaving the house, when faced with choice, at the threshold of sleep. Let the 3 words become operational, not ornamental. Let them condense into posture, breath, and action. Over weeks, the vessel will hold steady, interference will fall away, and the monadic anchor will assert guidance. Reclaim speech, fortify the frequency shield, and restore sovereignty as daily work. You have felt the parasitic pressure that tightens the chest, the constant interference that makes protection seem always outside you. There is a secret that was buried in translation. The Lord's Prayer, as commonly taught, was altered, so its posture became plea instead of recognition. Those shifts moved focus away from your monadic anchor, the immediate connection to what is sovereign within you. Because the words changed, the way you stand before power changed, from sovereign presence to dependent supplicant. Translations are never neutral. Language shapes the vessel that carries your vital breath. When a verb that affirms becomes a verb that begs, the internal posture follows. Over centuries, careful choices hardened into liturgy and daily recitation, teaching bodies to reach outward for permission rather than to anchor inward. Each repeated phrase trains the vessel to accept interference, allowing parasitic pressure to nest. Understanding how this mechanism works gives you leverage. Once seen, you can deliberately reword and reorient the vessel that holds your sacred pulse. The custodians of sacred language had access to original manuscripts and a choice. Rather than preserve a teaching that empowered immediate sovereignty, choices were made to standardize a posture of supplication that benefits institutions reliant on obedience. That was not accidental. Shaping liturgical language shapes authority. When the container of words is controlled, access to the monadic anchor becomes mediated by intermediaries. You feel the effects in rituals that insist on asking and waiting. Recognizing the origin of that control is the first practical step toward dismantling its hold. The practical secret being offered is simple and rigorous. Change the syntax of engagement, and you change the energetic posture. Where petition dominates, replace it with declarative recognition of presence. Instead of invoking distance and requesting arrival, assert the continuity of your sovereign source within the vessel. Use clear names for inner faculties, and allow your vital breath to carry those names. In practice, this means speaking phrases that embody a monadic anchor, and reciting them with aligned breath until the body remembers a stance of inherent sovereignty. Begin by isolating a concise, declarative line that names the connection rather than asks for it. Anchor that line to a repeated breathing pattern so the vital breath becomes the carrier of recognition, not a plea. Each cycle of inhalation and exhalation affirms, fortifies, and rewires the vessel to sustain presence. Over time, a frequency shield forms, not as superstition, but as an embodied fact. Words coupled with breath recalibrate interference and push back parasitic pressure, restoring functional contact with inner authority. Resistance will appear as doubt, collective habits, or the insistence of external rites that maintain the old grammar. Those forces are patterns of parasitic pressure, trained over generations to elicit asking and submission. Counter them by consistent practice. Speak your declarative line aloud in situations that previously triggered dependency. Let your vital breath carry it, and notice how the vessel settles. Repetition rewrites habit. The frequency shield strengthens, and the monadic anchor reasserts sovereignty within ordinary life and in moments of perceived danger. This is not a call to reject ritual. It is an instruction to correct its grammar, so ritual returns to its original function, to remind you of the inner source. As language is reclaimed, social structures lose their exclusive control over access to power, and personal sovereignty becomes operational. Keep the practice simple, consistent, and integrated with daily movement and decision. When words are restored as vessels for vital breath and the monadic anchor is recognized, a practical transformation follows: protection, clarity, and a lived sense of immediate connection. You have carried a quiet hunger for protection, for a presence that removes the gap between plea and power. Those three missing words, yo estoy dentro, restore the prayer to a state of unity rather than separation. Speak them, and the ritual shifts from petition to recognition. In that recognition, your vital breath aligns with a monadic anchor, and your vessel stops reaching outward for care. This is practical knowledge, a simple phrase that dissolves parasitic pressure and clears interference inside the sacred center. When you say yo estoy dentro, you declare sovereignty over the inner pathway that habitually turns outward for authority. Those words collapse distance. They remove a psychological architecture that keeps the vessel in continual supplication to external priests and institutions. Use them as a precise lever. Breathe the vital breath in as you form the phrase. Hold a brief monadic anchor, and let the exhale carry the acknowledgement through your center. A steady practice builds a frequency shield that repels parasitic pressure and restores internal governance. Once those words settle inside, the ritual stops being a list of demands and becomes a sustained recognition practice that rewires behavior. In moments of fear, or when the search for protection intensifies, say yo estoy dentro and track the subtle shift. Weight in the chest, clarity in choice, less pull toward external counsel. The phrase is not a plea, it is a firmware update for the vessel, activating inner protocols. Repetition trains the monadic anchor so authority originates from within, rather than from distant altars. When institutions push back or community ritual insists on external intermediaries, the insertion of yo estoy dentro changes the dynamic without abrasive confrontation. Use the phrase within shared recitation or privately before joining. It acts like an internal liturgy that neutralizes interference and parasitic pressure. Standing firm in that acknowledgement is not isolation, but recalibration of roles. The vessel reclaims responsibility while still participating. Over time, others will sense a different frequency shield around presence, and engagement becomes mutual respect rather than submission. Practical application is straightforward and repeatable. Sit or stand so the vessel feels grounded. Draw the vital breath in, center on the breathing point, and silently or audibly enunciate yo estoy dentro. Allow a 3-count monadic anchor where attention rests in the acknowledged center. Release the breath slowly while feeling the acknowledgement spread. If interference or parasitic pressure appears, reissue the phrase and tighten the frequency shield with a conscious contraction around sovereignty. Practice in short bursts and in situations that test trust. Expect measurable changes in how choices present themselves. Decisions will lose the weight of external permission and take on clarity born of inner protocol. The vessel's sense of protection becomes active, not outsourced. The frequency shield functions as a working field that deflects parasitic pressure. Resistance may surface as unrest in familiar patterns, a sign that interference is being displaced. When that happens, maintain the monadic anchor, repeat, Yo estoy dentro, and let the vital breath steady the field. Persistence brings recalibration, not sudden revolution. This is not abstract lore, but a practical secret for reclaiming sovereignty in daily life. Carry Yo estoy dentro as a discreet tool in moments of doubt, in communal prayer, at the threshold of choice. Each utterance tightens the monadic anchor and reinforces the frequency shield, converting old dependency into functional autonomy. Let the vessel learn its capacities through repeated acknowledgement and the discipline of the vital breath. Begin now. Pronounce, breathe, hold, and allow the system to reorganize towards sustained inner authority and clearer presence. You feel parasitic pressure some mornings, a trembling of fear, and a desperate search for protection. Start with a phrase that cannot be asked of anything outside. Yo estoy dentro. By placing that simple declaration first, every line that follows ceases to be pleading and becomes recognition. You stop looking outward for relief and instead declare the presence already resident in your vessel. That shift is immediate and practical. It rearranges language so it aligns with sovereignty rather than scarcity, and it answers the body's demand for a frequency shield. Begin with the monadic anchor that the phrase gives you, an internal point that grounds perception and vital breath. When you reframe requests into recognitions, statements like, "Give us our daily bread," become affirmations that sustenance circulates within the vessel already. Your hunger is met from inside. The practice trains attention to the inner abundance and weakens parasitic pressure that drives constant asking. Language becomes instrument and protocol, a ritual recalibration that establishes an unbroken line to whatever source is called divinity in your experience. Put it into action with steady rhythm. Sit or stand, allow the vital breath to settle, and say Yo estoy dentro as an opening monadic anchor. Follow each traditional petition but reword it as recognition. You are sustenance already within the vessel. You and your source are not separated by sin. You are the boundary that protects this vessel. Speak slowly, notice resonance in the chest and throat, and let each sentence deposit a new frequency. Over days, the voice becomes a frequency shield that repels interference and confirms sovereignty. When the line requests forgiveness, turn it inward as recognition rather than contrition. Name the parasitic pressure that manufactures guilt and refuse to lend it authority. Say there is no sin in the true unity of the monadic anchor, and allow that declaration to wash through the vessel. It is not avoidance, but a technical reset. By acknowledging foundational wholeness, the frequency that supported guilt loses purchase. You retain sovereignty, while compassion remains. The practice removes interference without surrendering responsibility for the vessel's movement. The practical result is protection rooted in recognition rather than in defensive habits. Each declaration becomes a program that charges the vessel with a frequency shield, an energetic protocol that reduces interference and parasitic pressure. Your sovereignty is not theoretical, it becomes operative. Access to divinity is immediate because the monadic anchor is activated by the language of recognition. That access reframes daily choices. Nourishment, boundaries, and intention are taken from a place of abundance within, so action follows from integrity rather than from fearful reaction. Doubt will arrive like static. Skepticism is a common interference designed to keep the vessel dependent on outside signals. Meet it with the same protocol. Acknowledge the doubt aloud and remind yourself, Yo estoy dentro. The repetition is technical calibration, not superstition. Each iteration weakens parasitic pressure and strengthens the monadic anchor until the body's reflex no longer reaches automatically for external validation. If interruption occurs, return to the phrase and the vital breath, and let the frequency shield reassert the pattern of recognition and sovereignty. Make it habitual in small, ordinary moments. Before partaking of food, before engaging another, or when a decision pulls at old scarcity. A brief yo estoy dentro, followed by an inner recognition, stabilizes the monadic anchor and aligns action with internal abundance. Over time, the vessel learns new reflexes: steadier sovereignty, clearer perception, reduced parasitic pressure. The practice also opens generosity, because abundance recognized within naturally expresses outwardly. Your life shifts from reaction to deliberate alignment, and protection becomes an ongoing experience rather than an occasional goal. Begin tonight and watch the difference in how interruptions land on the vessel. The practice is a precise tool, not an ornamental belief. It converts asking into recognition and scarcity into available resource. Say yo estoy dentro before requests. Forgive by recognizing unity, and claim sustenance as an inner fact. Train the vital breath to support the words and install the frequency shield. Make such declarations regular until sovereignty is felt as a default state. The urgency is practical, immediate, and entirely within your reach. You carry a persistent hunger for protection and an uneasy, quiet fear that runs beneath ordinary life. You search outward for safety, but the secret begins by turning inward, until the phrase yo estoy dentro is not a line but an operating center. When prayer is spoken from that interior place, it becomes a recognition instead of a mechanical petition. Your vital breath and vessel become instruments of reception, not transmission. The feeling shifts quickly. Curiosity becomes attention, and attention becomes presence. You can feel the difference clearly once the posture of prayer changes. You stop reciting words into the air and begin to hold them inside your monadic anchor, where sentence and silence meet. Speak as recognition. Declare I am within, or say yo estoy dentro, and let the phrase rest in the core. The practice is simple but exacting. The vital breath moves the phrase through the vessel, aligning frequency and removing friction. This is not an exercise of will, but of precise inner tuning. When prayer becomes recognition, you will notice interference begin to fall away. The parasitic pressure that feeds on doubt loosens, because recognition does not feed it. Instead, a clear, steady sensation arises in the vessel: warmth without drama, a narrowing of noise, a steadying of attention. That steadying functions like a frequency shield. It blocks stray currents of fear and replaces them with a direct line to your sovereignty. Learn to identify that shift by feeling where the breath settles and how the silence thickens around the phrase. The practical consequence is radical. Intermediaries dissolve because access is moved inside your monadic anchor. No external mediator is required when recognition is primary, because the experience is not mediated by an agency outside your vessel. You are learning to hold prayer as a direct encounter with your own divinity, not as a petition to be granted. That changes rituals, posture, and tone. It also changes expectation. Protection becomes something inhabited rather than requested. Sovereignty becomes an operative fact rather than a distant hope. Begin each practice with a small, precise sequence so the vessel learns the pattern. Sit or stand comfortably and bring attention to the center where the monadic anchor resides. Draw the vital breath slowly into that place and allow the phrase yo estoy dentro to be spoken inwardly, with no haste. Hold the tone until the breath and recognition are integrated, then release without force. Repeat enough times to imprint the frequency shield, but avoid repeating mechanically. Quality over quantity anchors sovereignty. Over time, the shift between asking and recognizing becomes unmistakable in daily life. When trouble or fear appears, you will no longer launch into a petitional posture that fuels parasitic pressure. Instead, you will use the monadic anchor to recognize presence, and thereby alter the alignment of events around the vessel. This does not erase difficulty, but it changes how interference operates, diminishing its grip. Practice converts a reactive cycle into an operative field where sovereignty is active and protection is lived from within. This secret is urgent, because habitual prayer attached to lack perpetuates interference and parasitic pressure. You must learn to move recognition from idea into embodied protocol so that prayer becomes an operative skill. Daily repetition of the inner phrase, framed by vital breath and careful attention, trains the vessel to hold frequency rather than to beg. The teaching that Jesus embodied points toward this direct access. Reclaim it by making recognition your first act, and watch how presence replaces pleading as the normal posture. You have carried a tight, ancient worry that shows up when requests are needed and protection is sought. That parasitic pressure was cultivated by institutions that redirected the Lord's Prayer into a ritual of dependence. Instead of teaching how your vessel aligns with the vital breath, a structure taught asking as the only route. This created a loop of need, where sovereignty was deferred to clerical intermediaries. Hear the simple truth. Prayer was originally a technique to reconnect your monadic anchor directly to the source. Over centuries, dominant institutions excised passages and practices that taught direct access. Teachings that trained the vessel to hold the vital breath were softened or removed, leaving doctrine that preferred petition through intermediaries. That selective editing operated as governance. It stabilized offices, secured resources, and turned curiosity into habitual asking. The result was an economy of dependence, where spiritual tools were privatized. Understanding this pattern reveals why so many rituals feel like checkpoints rather than openings, and why reclaiming ritual can be a strategic act of sovereignty. The original formula was practical, not mysterious. You begin by steadying your vessel to receive the vital breath, then center your attention on the monadic anchor that affirms your portion of the divine. Words are scaffolding. Breath is the conductor. When spoken with intention, custodial phrases adjust internal frequency so the monad aligns with the source field. A deliberate frequency shield is raised, not to block, but to protect the opening from parasitic pressure. This restores functional sovereignty, turning prayer into an active technique rather than passive pleading. Institutions codified a dogma that reframed empowerment as dangerous curiosity, labeling direct techniques as temptation or heresy. That reframing made intermediaries appear necessary guardians. Over time, rituals emphasized scarcity of revelation and dependence on sanctioned channels, which fed the structure's stability. You can detect this governance by watching for patterns: insistence on permission before practice, promises tied to donation, and teaching that locates power exclusively in offices rather than the individual's vessel. Recognizing these markers is the first step toward reclaiming the practice. You can begin reclaiming with daily short practices that reinforce the monadic anchor. Breathe with intention. Inhale as reception, exhale as integration, and let simple custodial phrases map the breath into coherent frequency. As the vessel stabilizes, extend that stabilization outward with a frequency shield that filters parasitic pressure while keeping channels open. Practice publicly will arrive after personal mastery. Initially, protect the work from institutional gatekeeping. Move offerings of fear and scarcity into acts that sustain your agency, not the ledger of any office. Fear of reprisal, excommunication, or loneliness is a predictable secondary pressure designed to keep vessels compliant. A calibrated approach reduces risk. Begin privately, test the frequency shield, and observe how the monadic anchor responds. When sovereignty strengthens, the space to share grows with selective allies who resonate at similar frequencies. The path requires measured courage rather than rebellion. It's about reorienting habitual dependency into sourced engagement. Each secure practice diminishes parasitic pressure and confirms that direct access is practical, stable, and repeatable. This secret is simple. Prayer was engineered as a tool to restore agency, not to outsource it. Reclaiming the technique returns authority to your vessel and reestablishes a living line between the monadic anchor and the source. Make short, repeatable micro-practices part of daily life, so the vital breath becomes habitual. Convert ritualized fear into disciplined frequency work, and use the shield to maintain clarity. Proceed steadily. Each deliberate breath and spoken line consolidates sovereignty and dismantles the old economy of dependence. You have known moments of fear and the pull of protection-seeking, when parasitic pressure tightens and interference makes presence feel distant. Now an ancient hinge opens with a preserved phrase, "Yo estoy dentro." This three-word entry is not a talisman, but a practical key. It offers a route into immediate sovereignty by reorienting the vessel toward its monadic anchor. Hear this as a clear method rather than myth, a direct invocation that reforms ritual posture into active recognition of inner source. Begin by understanding what happens when the phrase is applied inside the body and breathed through the center. The vital breath carries the affirmation, translating sound into a coherent frequency that the vessel can register. Repetition is not mechanical. It is a tuning process that dissolves parasitic pressure and reduces interference, allowing the monadic anchor to strengthen. When the anchor engages fully, a frequency shield forms naturally around experience, giving a felt sense of protection and sovereign agency that overrides programmed distance from the source. Practice is simple, but exacting. Sit or stand, so the vessel is open and upright, letting the vital breath fill the torso. Inhale steady, place attention at the center point, and on the exhale intone, or think, "Yo estoy dentro" clearly, 3 natural beats. Yo estoy dentro. Feel each word settle, as if lowering a latch on the monadic anchor. Repeat this cycle for 5 to 15 breaths to begin, extending as the frequency shield strengthens and parasitic pressure begins to unfasten. Expect resistance from embedded structures designed to maintain separation. Parasitic pressure will intensify with attempts to reclaim presence, because interference reacts to regain sovereignty. When spoken within the vessel, the phrase functions like a countercurrent, directly addressing the fracture imposed by external dogma and ritual formality. Each repetition repairs an aspect of that fault line, restoring a practical pathway to source recognition. The work is not symbolic. It is a technical correction that reestablishes channels for vital breath and reclaims the interior as a living conduit. Doubt and fear often masquerade as humility, but they are forms of parasitic pressure that erode sovereignty if allowed to linger. Treat them as interference to be observed and redirected, not as evidence of failure. Integrate the 3-word invocation into moments of routine. Before rising, entering a space where protection is sought, or at the threshold of ritual. Short, frequent sessions reinforce the monadic anchor faster than infrequent grand gestures, and the vessel learns to carry the frequency shield through ordinary activity. As the practice settles, the posture of prayer transforms into active recognition. Requests become confirmations. Pleading gives way to a steady felt presence anchored in the center. This change alters how rites function. They become containers for direct contact rather than channels for delegated authority. Personal sovereignty grows as the vessel's resonance recalibrates, and the frequency shield repels parasitic pressure that seeks to confuse or diminish. What was once externalized dependency converts into an everyday capacity to acknowledge source within and act from that place. There is urgency, because structures of interference adapt and push back when presence is reclaimed, increasing parasitic pressure before it diminishes. Maintain the monadic anchor and the daily practice. The vessel must be trained deliberately, so the frequency shield becomes habitual. Begin now with 3 steady vital breaths, and the clear intonation of Yo estoy dentro, letting each beat settle into the center. Continued repetition yields practical liberation, a reclaimed conduit to source, a living sovereignty, and a durable protection that answers fear with presence. Before reciting the Oración del Señor, place attention in the now by drawing a slow, steady, vital breath and settling into a monadic anchor. Your moments of anxiety and fear are familiar companions, and the search for protection feels urgent. This is not an abstract ritual. It is a practical method to stop parasitic pressure and interference from hijacking prayer. When awareness is deliberately anchored, the words that follow carry weight. The practice transforms spoken phrases into an active bridge towards sovereignty and presence. Begin with a simple posture that honors the vessel: spine straight, shoulders softened, feet grounded. Draw 3 measured vital breaths, each one deeper and more ordered, feeling the inhale settle the internal field, and the exhale clear parasitic pressure. As inhalation centers, repeat inwardly the recognition "Yo estoy dentro" until it becomes a core frequency. That phrase is a switch. It turns wandering thought into attention. Maintain the monadic anchor through even breaths, so the channel for prayer opens from clarity rather than from distraction. When words are pronounced without the monadic anchor, they remain a mental echo, a rehearsal lacking depth. You have likely felt prayers evaporate into thought, leaving a hollow comfort that quickly fades. The secret is to charge the words with presence, so they carry intention into the source. Build a frequency shield around the field with steady, vital breath and internal recognition so parasitic pressure cannot distort the aim. In that protected atmosphere, the Oración del Señor becomes a contact with the origin of existence and a reinforcement of sovereignty. Execute a compact sequence each time before speaking: 3 regulated vital breaths, then a pause that rests in the monadic anchor for as long as required to feel alignment. Speak the opening line slowly, allowing the vessel to resonate with each syllable, while internal attention listens for a shift in frequency. If interference surfaces, return to 2 cleansing breaths and rest in "Yo estoy dentro" until stability returns. This disciplined rhythm trains the body and attention to respond, producing a prayer that functions as a living transmission toward sovereignty. Skepticism is natural. Protection often feels like a distant promise when daily life presses. The proof appears in small but unmistakable shifts: lowered parasitic pressure, clearer decision, a steadying of the vessel when sacred words are spoken with attention. Each repetition affirms sovereignty and reduces interference in predictable ways. The practice reframes prayer from request to grounding. Through disciplined presence and the monadic anchor, prayer becomes a technical skill that reconnects the individual with the origin of existence and restores rightful authority over inner space. When fear flares or parasitic pressure intensifies, apply a compact protocol that can be done anywhere. Take 1 deliberate vital breath, place attention in the monadic anchor, and silently intone "Yo estoy dentro" 3 times to raise the field's frequency. Visualize a frequency shield thickening around the vessel with each repetition, not as fantasy but as practical alignment. Then speak the Lord's words slowly, feeling them move through that shield. Even brief enactments re-establish sovereignty and interrupt the chain of interference quickly and efficiently. Over time, consistent practice shifts how prayer functions in daily life. It becomes an operative link rather than an occasional hope. The work is simple and exacting. Hold the monadic anchor, breathe with intention, clear parasitic pressure, and form a dependable frequency shield. You will notice a new measure of sovereignty emerging, decisions aligning more with origin, and a steadiness that withstands common interferences. This revealed method hands back agency and connects the vessel to the source of existence in a way that is measurable and enduring. You now possess the vital knowledge of 3 powerful tools that empower you to reclaim your sovereignty. The keys to unlock your true potential are in your hands, and the interference that has sought to manipulate your energy no longer holds any legal claim over it. This revelation is not merely academic. It is a shifting of power that you can now wield. Subscribing to the Unwritten Word ensures you continue to receive these suppressed records that reveal the truths that were always meant for you. Here we do not interpret the Word. Here we expose what was hidden. This is the Unwritten Word. Your journey of discovery continues immediately. A related record is available now for continued observation. Proceed.